Well, thank you, everyone. My name is Stuart Q. I'm the Executive Director of the Yale Center for Business and the Environment, which is a joint initiative of the Yale School of Management and the Yale School of the Environment. Welcome to Startup Yale. Welcome to the Sabin Sustainable Venture Prize. I'm going to do a brief intro at the beginning for a few minutes. And then we'll get started right around 12:10 with our first teams. I'm going to run through four really interesting, dynamic presentations from our finalists, give our judges, a wonderful group of folks who've taken an incredible amount of time to understand, look at, provide feedback on, consider all of the adventures that we've had this year, give them a chance to try to make a very tough decision. And then we'll be back here just a little bit before 2 p.m. to announce the winners. One thing for you all to keep in mind, one of the really incredible features here and stuff that people did an amazing job last year is questions from the audience. While the judges deliberate, we're going to have a chance for everybody here to ask questions of the teams. So when the judges leave, we would love to have the questions that you've been getting that are coming up for you, be able to be unpacked and considered by the finalists. So put those into the chat and the Q&A, and then we'll be able to, on the last half hour of the event, get to those. And again, thanks for being here. So I am just going to share my screen, quickly go through a bit of the background on our event today. So as I mentioned, Startup Yale, this has been an event, Abby Winslow, who you heard speaking there, is just one of the people to thank for this, but she's been the heart and soul of organizing it all. This is a tremendous effort of lots of people from across Yale to be able to lift up, support, and engage all the kind of amazing entrepreneurs and innovators that we see in and around the Yale ecosystem. Before we get started, I just want to acknowledge a couple of things. First, kind of beautiful sunny day sitting here in New Haven, Connecticut, and just wanted to acknowledge that the indigenous peoples that have here and stewarded this land, the waterways, through generations, what is now the state of Connecticut. We honor and respect that enduring relationship that exists between the peoples and nations of this land. We really can't know where we're going unless we look back and understand where we've been, the challenges, the things we can learn, where we can grow from. If you're interested in learning more about this on a related element, we've been running a speaker series this year featuring wonderful authors and conversation with other folks. This book, Braiding Sweetgrass, is really one that I would totally recommend if you've got a hankering to learn more about the combination of scientific knowledge, indigenous wisdom, and plants. Robin Wall Kimmerer is an incredible author. One other elements and kind of how this goes today and what we do and what we do well, please give us feedback. This prize is the first one founded at Yale, and it really is seeking to solve some of the most complex challenges out there. And what we know from research and practice is the most diverse teams of lived experience, intergenerational background, all these different elements are the ones that are best at solving complex challenges. And so where we can support and engage and create an environment where all those folks can come together in teams or in networks is really the best opportunity that we have to address some of the complex things that we need to on the social and environmental challenges that people care about. As I mentioned, none of this would be possible without a group of people who've supported this across Yale. In particular, I'd love to just thank and acknowledge that there's a team at the Yale Center for Business and the Environment between Peter Boyd and Heather Fitzgerald and Amy Badner and Ben Soltoff that have all done amazing things. The heart and soul of the work at our center in supporting this and why all these centers come together across campus are the students. And we've had a wonderful student team this year that has done incredible work to support the entrepreneurs. And I really, really, really can't say enough about what they've done under the circumstances that they've been working in. Eileen Nakata, Winter Wilson, and Forrest Abbott-Loom, just a dynamic, incredible group of three that has done fantastic work. I mean, just so small pause and brief applause for all the work that they've done, which has really been remarkable. And if you want to learn more about how we do support entrepreneurs across campus and the ways that we can, please visit the website here because you can see what this looks like in practice. Now, what you're seeing now is like what is really a developed dynamic ecosystem of entrepreneurial support. We're just one part of it at the Yale Center for Business and the Environment. But the first prize that was really here was the Sabin Sustainable Venture Prize. It was put in place, 13 years ago to kind of get this started, to really seed and understand how we could support entrepreneurs on challenges around the environment and sustainability. And when you have a moment, I would just really encourage you, we're thrilled that we get to have one of the Sabin Prize winners as a judge this time, and we'll get to introducing them, Alexia. But if you look back and see the winners of the prize, like some of these folks are now working at a huge national and global scale. Whether you're looking at people who are doing geospatial mapping of forest canopies that's now working with some of the largest businesses and companies in the world, to people who are solving and addressing issues on food waste at a huge level, to folks who are kind of redefining the agricultural sector and seeing how we can reduce methane emissions in livestock. I mean, this is a really dynamic and remarkable group that has come through, and the Sabin Prize has been a model that other people have looked at in developing the ecosystem in and around Yale. The teams that we're then going to see today, wonderful group, and last year we started the prize with a quote from a famous entrepreneur from Patagonia, Yvon Chouinard, said, "It's not an adventure until something goes wrong." We'd started this, we'd gone online 3 weeks before the pandemic had started, and we were all just scrambling. And then, this year you've really just been able to see the community, the entrepreneurs, the entire group of people who are surrounding it, pivot, support, understand the challenge that we have ahead of us, and be able to adapt. And I think that kind of recognition of the challenge in front of us, and then the ability to adapt to it this year, has really been this kind of, a pivot for the entire community that's demonstrated the kind of nimble thinking and entrepreneurial spirit of the whole group. But then just most importantly, these entrepreneurs that have been able to kind of push through, sort of see a pathway, be able to develop their ideas, really, really remarkable group of people. And they're supported by a really, really remarkable group of judges. And I just want to run through the folks that who are going to be talking very quickly and providing feedback on these. First, Anastasia O'Rourke, who's the managing director at the Carbon Containment Lab. Anastasia actually founded the Sabin Prize here, was the kind of person who put it in place on the Yale side and been able to kind of create the infrastructure and set it up. So if you like the DNA of what this looks like, you should go thank Anastasia. Kino Sadler, someone who is a social entrepreneur who creates ecosystems and support for social and environmental entrepreneurs, who has done this and been kind enough to collaborate with us at Yale over a period of time. Really, really kind of remarkable history of sort of seeing how these networks and clusters can be created. Liddy Carter, a SOM alumna who's systematically been at the verge of different investment theses and ways of investing for social and environmental returns. And I think it's just because she's defining that edge. She's one of those people who is constantly out there at the front and is one of the best networkers and connectors of advice we've ever seen. Speaking of good advice, Keith Whittingham, a colleague and friend from a peer school, Rollins College, who's a professor there, probably one of the best advice givers of student teams that we've ever encountered and seen. And so love having him and his advice here for the student teams that we support at Yale. This year, we're thrilled in the Sabin Foundation that we've been able to tap into the expertise on the intergenerational side of Sam Sabin, who leads the sustainability efforts and initiatives at the Sabin Corporation. So Sam has been providing advice and support to the prize this year. And many thanks to the Sabin Foundation for all their work here. And then last, Alexia, who is the entrepreneur that I mentioned. She founded Symbrosia, which won this competition a few years ago. She is actively creating seaweed that addresses issues in climate change. You should go look at Symbrosia, remarkable success and kind of engagement over the past few years, and a tribute to kind of I think what someone with drive, purpose, and then hopefully just resources and a bit of push from here can do. And with that, we're going to get into the competition. Thank you to our judges. Thank you to the community. Thank you for you all for attending. Really excited to have a great day today. The first team that we have is Chi Foods, and Chi Foods aims to bring traditional East Asian superfoods to the mainstream Western market through a brand that educates consumers about these foods, its flavors, and health benefits. Take it away, Chi Foods.
Thanks so much, Stu, and I'm so excited to be kicking off the Sabin Prize. So, share my screen. All right, so hi everyone, my name is Tiffany Leong and I'm the founder of Chi Foods. The word Chi means energy or life force in Mandarin, and we make traditional East Asian superfoods. So did you know that Asian families all over the world, whether in China, Korea, Japan, or even Texas where I grew up, drinking nutritional herbal soups and drinks is a daily ritual that's been passed down through generations. I grew up drinking all sorts of herbal soups and drinks my mom used to make for me. It was a staple part of my childhood. I didn't really appreciate these drinks though until about 6 years ago. I used to call them witch's brew. But when I was going through some health challenges during these times, I tried a lot of crazy things to heal until one day I just found myself making the same herbal drinks my mom used to make for me. They played a major role in my healing process and I just really fell in love with it. At the same time, I noticed all my friends were eating all sorts of superfoods like bone broth and turmeric lattes. And I thought, why aren't the superfoods that I grew up with on store shelves yet? Well, this is all about to change. In 2018, the World Health Organization recognized traditional Chinese medicine, also known as TCM, in its global medical report. And this has made TCM a $40 billion global market today that's growing 10% year over year. So just as a consumer today, how would you even know how to navigate this world that is growing so quickly? I remember growing up in Texas, I used to go to farmers markets every weekend and you really knew exactly where your fruits and vegetables were grown and where they came from. But I would go home and look inside our pantry and have no idea where these herbs came from and what they even contain. So I'm sure a lot of you also have walked into an ethnic grocery store, maybe feeling really overwhelmed. And even if you know the language, it's just really rare to find a product that's clean label or even talks about its supply chain. And you can really forget about this if you've ever gone into an Asian herb pharmacy. So let's talk about the traditional sourcing dangers of these herbs. So studies show that 94% of TCM ingredients can contain pesticide and fungicide residues. 92% can contain environmental pollutants that really can contaminate soils. 67% are adulterated in other harmful ways, including using chemical dyes. And 90% are fumigated with sulfur dioxide. So traditionally, these herbs are sun-dried for preservation, but companies nowadays are using industrial sulfur because it's the cheapest and easiest way to preserve herbs, but they've really overdone this. Sulfur dioxide in high doses can cause lung cancer and air pollution, according to the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology. So sourcing challenges can really lead to health and environmental problems. And while important sustainable work is being done in other food categories, there really needs to be more attention to this food group that's gaining popularity throughout the world. And that's why I founded Chi Foods. Our mission is to make East Asian superfoods more accessible to the Western market. Chi Foods is also the pioneer of transparent East Asian supply chains. There are over thousands of superfoods that have been used for thousands of years in East Asia that we want to introduce safely and ethically to the market. We're really excited to introduce our first product line, which will be in the form of a really delicious, naturally sweet and refreshing East Asian superfood tea. Our first 3 flavors are jujube, hawthorn, and chrysanthemum, and these are staple healthy foods in Asian diets. Traditionally, they've been used for many things, including immunity, heart health, and its detoxifying properties. And we're really careful about the medical claims that we make, but these functional claims are substantiated by medical journals, medical professionals, and we even went an extra step and underwent a really rigorous nutritional analysis to ensure that vitamins and nutrients kind of match up with these benefits. And most importantly, it just tastes really good. We want to highlight our high quality ingredients and our ethical sourcing methods. So we're really proud to be partnering with what we found to be the highest quality Asian herb importer in the US. All of our ingredients are organic, pesticide free. They're tested for over 400 different pesticide residues. We never use sulfur as preservatives. And all of our herbs are also grown in the most nutrient rich farming regions in China and Taiwan. And this is important because depending on which region the herbs are grown, it can really affect the quality as well as the health benefits. A little bit more about our products. They're made with whole herbs. We never use any natural flavors. There's no artificial sweeteners or preservatives, and they're shelf stable, making logistics easier, more cost effective, and more environmentally sustainable. The bottles itself are also recyclable in entirety. Some testimonials that we've gotten are it tastes like my childhood, and I feel like so much good is happening to my body right now. A quick note on our supply chain that we've set up, aside from partnering with what we found to be the highest quality Asian herb importer in the US, our co-packer also has extensive experience manufacturing and bottling herbal beverages. And for our customers, we're also setting up QR codes for them to track our supply chains all the way down to the farming communities where our ingredients are grown. A little bit more about myself. I have 6 years of experience in sustainable food and agriculture, private equity, investment banking, and natural resources. And I also spent part of my summer last year working in venture capital and impact investing. So the combination of finance and sustainable ag has really been an advantage in building Chief Foods. I'm currently completing my MBA at SOM and will be working on Chief Foods full time when I graduate in a few weeks, which is really exciting. And I've been really lucky to have an amazing team of Yale students working with me, as well as an amazing set of mentors and advisors that I couldn't all fit on this page. But a few I want to call out today are Dr. Young-Chi Chang. He's a Yale School of Medicine professor, as well as the founder of a Chinese medicine cancer therapeutics company, and John Wargo, who is a professor at the Yale School of Environment. And I studied transparent East Asian supply chains with him. And I also have to give a shout out to my mom, who taught me how to make these recipes. So the timing for Chief Foods is spot on. We're all trying to be healthier these days, especially in the age of COVID. The functional food market is $150 billion in the US, and 43 billion of that are superfoods. And based on a bottoms-up analysis, we believe our opportunity today is $3 billion. We also want to point out that we represent the fastest growing racial group in the US. Asian Americans grew 72% in population the last 15 years, and they're the group with the largest purchasing power of $1 trillion in the US. And while we're not exclusively targeting Asian Americans, you can just really see the impact Asian Americans have had on Western culture. Just think things like Minari, acupuncture, and cupping, and we really believe this is just the beginning. We recognize the food and beverage space is very crowded and very competitive, but right now there's currently no beverage in the US that's both healthy and features Asian superfoods. Asian beverages imported from Asia right now are only found in Chinese supermarkets, and they're filled with sugar and additives. And we certainly have not seen any jujube or hawthorn drinks in the US. So broadly, we really view our competitors in two different categories. One, millennial superfood brands that focus on generic and well-known superfoods like matcha and cacao, and then two, the traditional kind of Chinese herbal pharmacies that sell raw Asian herbs. And we really view ourselves as a brand that brings the best of both of these worlds together. Chief Foods was born late 2019 when I first got to SOM, and since then we've essentially created a turnkey operation from scratch that's ready for launch. So we've done hundreds of taste tests, accumulated hundreds of pre-launch emails organically. We participated in accelerator programs, including Tsai CITY, and we'll be participating in the Summer Fellowship this year. And we've also won countless awards. The last few months, we completed 3 successful commercial production runs with our co-packer in Massachusetts. We received regulatory and FDA approval to sell, and now we're preparing to launch. A little bit more about our go-to-market. We're currently preparing to run 2 pilots, an e-commerce pilot and a small retail pilot. We've gone into 6 stores to date, including Blended, which is on State Street for those who are in New Haven, and then West Side Market for those that live in New York. And medium term, we want to be in places like Whole Foods, H Mart, and Junzi, where we've had conversations with them and the buyers, and they're really excited to carry our product when we're ready. And then long term, we really want to grow to be a national brand. So we hope to use the Sabin funds for our retail and e-commerce pilots, as well as devote a third tranche that's dedicated to the sustainability elements to our venture. And this award will be just really important for us to hit our next milestones for launch and allow us to press go on this business that we've built. And it will also allow us to serve as a bridge for us until our fundraise this summer. And beverages is just the beginning. So our plan is to expand to include several product lines such as snacks, ingredients, soup kits, broths, and desserts to really fill this large white space between Asian and Western healthy food products on shelves. We're poised to become the Patagonia of Asian superfoods. And we really see a future where all Americans can go into the store, find on their shelves these miracle foods and harvest some of these same health benefits that have been enjoyed for thousands of years. And we really want to help reinforce environmentally friendly supply chains and reward good behavior and help expand operations so the food industry can have a catalyst of sustainable transformation. Thank you so much. And if we were not in a pandemic, everyone would have a bottle to try right now. So please feel free to reach out if you'd like to have some samples. Otherwise, keep posted the next 1 or 2 months online and on shelves for us. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Tiffany. Wonderful in terms of the presentation and being right on time. Appreciate that. So judges, again, we're going to hold you right to the 10 minutes. So we're going to be strict and we'll cut it off. You can either raise your hands virtually or you can just wave at me and we will get your question. Anastasia, you're unmuting. So let's get the first question started.
Hi, Tiffany. Thank you so much for the great presentation and all the work. It's really exciting to see this, and I really wish I could taste it. So I might take you up on that. I was wondering if you could tell us a bit more about how do you sort of protect your sourcing strategy? Because that seems to me as like a really unique and, yeah, your sort of unique proposition here of really getting this really high quality ingredients, organic, certified, etc., so that people trust, the sources. What's, if you figure that out and you're super transparent with it, as you were talking about with QR codes and so on, what's to say, some Whole Foods brand will come in and just copy you? How do you protect that?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's definitely a big concern in the food and beverage space. So yes, as the pioneer of doing this, we do expect copycats in the future. And, that will happen if, we have our QR codes and you can see where the farms are being sourced from. We've created really great relationships with our suppliers, and we've talked to, I think, all of them in the US, and we found them to be the highest quality ones, and we have a great relationship. So hopefully when we're kind of at scale and kind of ordering in larger volumes, we can kind of maybe kind of create a non-compete or just work exclusively with the supplier. And what's really going to protect us in the future from copycats? We actually view copycats as a good thing. It means we're doing something right, and then there's more change in the industry. But our brand will really kind of set us apart. We have first mover advantage. What we're creating is a community, and also kind of the difference between kind of the current traditional medicinal like tincture companies and us is we're really creating a brand. We're connecting with our customers and really creating a community online and creating a brand that everyone trusts.
Thank you, Tiffany. Alexia, and awesome to have former Sabin Prize winner back in the judging. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Tiffany. Thank you so much for your presentation. Super energizing. My question is, can you tell us a little bit more about the scope of work anticipated for the environmental fellow that you budgeted for?
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's a great question. So right now, all of our ingredients are organic, but we need to go the extra step to get the organic USDA organic certification on our label. So that will cost kind of a couple of $1,000s, especially to add a consultant to help us do that. So we really need an environmental fellow to kind of help support that. We also need other certifications such as kind of gluten-free and vegan. Those are kind of on the smaller side, but last year we got approved for pending B Corp certification. And while we decided not to kind of spend our resources the first 6 months, we really want to be changing to a B Corp and having that B Corp certification on our label. So we realize that's a lot of work, and having an environmental fellow will really help that. And then there's just so much that we still need to learn and so much that we need to do to creating a transparent supply chain. So just having them kind of help track some of our carbon footprint and maybe find ways to offset some of the carbon emissions that we're kind of creating, whether that's finding the right organizations to donate to, like the Climate or Environmental Defense Fund, or kind of figuring out ways to buy carbon credits to offset these emissions.
Liddy, looks like you're unmuting.
I unmuted. Thanks, Tiffany, for your presentation. I am wondering about the business side of what you're doing. It's a tricky thing to create a new consumer brand, and you put out there that you expect to have a $3 billion market share. I think that's a goal out of 43 billion addressable market. Seems like a big goal. It's almost 10% or 11, 8 or 9. Anyway, that's big. And I'm wondering, have you thought about where that number came from? Can you give us some sense of that, and also what you're looking at in terms of potential margins? Are your materials really a lot more expensive than the competition, or how do you sort of stack up competitively against other things that are out there, even though the actual ingredients are a little different in your case?
Absolutely. So I'll answer the first question. So $3 billion was based off of a bottoms-up analysis. So we came about that in several different ways. One, that is kind of the total ready-to-drink herbal beverage market, as well as the market size of our target consumers who like to purchase ready-to-drink beverages kind of twice a week. So we came up with that number in 2 different ways. And then also just to kind of compare to what the traditional Chinese medicine market in the US is. In 2016, this market was $4.6 billion imported and exported in the US. So it kind of, is a good chunk of that 4.6. And then your question on the margins, we're currently, at 34% margin, gross margin. And this is us buying on really small scale and us as a small player right now. But we've gotten quotes from our suppliers, and also as we scale, this should be going up to 50% in the next few years. We have an incredible set of advisors that's kind of helping us with our cost structure, and including Dennis Ring, who launched Whole Foods 365, and just talking to him and kind of other beverage experts, 34% is actually quite good for a beverage starting out, considering, the additional trade spend and promotions that we'll have to incur.
Thanks.
Great. The questions, Keith. Are you muting there?
Yes, just a quick one. You talk about the market that you're looking at, and then as you said, you're not looking exclusively at the Asian market, of course, but my question is, how do you break through the clutter, right, in the consumer product space like this, and particularly one with a strong message of sustainability in a market that has a fair amount of tradition established from buying brands in Asian supermarkets, et cetera, that currently exist? What's your plan to break through some of that clutter with a strong message of sustainability?
Absolutely. So yes, customer education and customer acquisition will be one of our hardest or one of our biggest challenges. So what we're trying to do is, really set up a digital branding or digital marketing presence. So we really want to set a community kind of through Instagram, and I guess TikTok is really important among some of our younger target demographic, and just kind of educate the consumers based on health benefits, and also kind of what we're doing differently from other kind of herb companies and herb beverages in the market right now. We also are creating an ambassador program. So we'll be working with micro influencers who are really influential in the space, and a lot of our target customers kind of trust. So Zoe Gong, for example, is huge in the traditional Chinese medicine space, and we really want to be working with her. She is very credible. And so working with the right partners, and also kind of relying on our advisors and industry experts to have the credibility and kind of fact check some of the stuff, or all the stuff that we're putting out there. And of course, yeah, we want to start with Asian Americans where the barrier is a little bit less steep. But what we really want to do is expand to friends of Asian Americans and what we call the health conscious kind of millennial, female or male, where, you know, they're already eating things like acai and cacao and you know, they're food adventurous and they want to just kind of incorporate new different vitamins and minerals in their diets.
Great. Thank you. And Kino, you flagged a question as well. Do you have one more quick one before we're done?
Actually, that was my question, the exact same question. So I already nailed it.
Great. And then I think, let's see, winner. Looks like, are we at time or do you have time for one more? Great. Andy, do you have a quick one?
I think, Tiffany, I've been to 106 countries all over Asia. Your product and your presentation is fantastic. My only concern is, will you be able to raise enough money? Because this is really an important marketing play. Can you raise enough money to market a great product? Because there are a lot of people with the exact same product in your space. And that's my real concern is, can you raise the money it's going to take to make this successful?
Thanks, Andy.
Absolutely. Yes. So definitely agree with that sentiment. This summer, we're planning on raising $500,000, and that's just to get started. After that, that should last us about 14 months. And we really, for our seed raise, we need to be raising at least 1.5 million. So this will cost a lot of, or kind of require a lot of capital. Now we have been talking to kind of early stage seed investors, both angel groups and also institutional investors, as well as friends and family. We've gotten a lot of interest, and we're really kind of we're really I don't know, I can't find the word. We're confident that we can get this fundraise done. And I just want to point out that we've only spent $12,000 to date, which I think is unheard of for a product like this. I think typically, you know, companies probably spent, you know, 70 to 80 to, you know, more just to get to this state. So we're very kind of scrappy and smart with our capital. And we know that we can, one, raise the 500,000 this summer and then do more than what our competitors can do with that amount.
Thank you, Tiffany. And thank you, Key Foods. Appreciate it. Wonderful presentation. And looking forward to our next one, where we get to transition. The diversity of ventures in this is always awesome in the Sabin Sustainable Venture Prize. MAVA, which creates affordable and sustainable 3D printed housing by turning plastic waste into eco-concrete. MAVA, the floor is yours, and looking forward to hearing it.
Thank you, Sue, and thank you everyone who joined us. We are so excited to present at Sabin. I'm going to share my screen right now. MAVA creates eco-concrete for 3D printed affordable housing and beyond. Hello everyone, my name is Maria. I'm CEO of MAVA. I have a multidisciplinary background in robotic and architecture and sustainable design. I'm coming from Iran, always devastated to see the children sitting and begging in the streets, having no homes. I moved to Los Angeles, one of the major rich cities in the world, just to come to realize that we are facing the same problem. So what is lacking in technology? And how can we achieve a more cost-effective construction method and material to make homes accessible to everyone? And I actually realized there's a far bigger problem that we're facing, and that's waste crisis. And currently in South America, people are using recycled plastic to create fire-rated building blocks that can be used for creating affordable housing. So I was thinking, what if we reinvent the material, which is concrete and is one of the most polluting material on earth, rather than just building the building blocks, just reinvent the whole material formula and use it for 3D printing construction to mass produce cost-effective, affordable housing. So MAVA was born with a vision to restore our planet and giving everyone a green, warm, safe home to thrive. And we are going to create the ultimate sustainable carbon negative material to reach our goal. As you all know, we are facing waste, river sand shortage, water scarcity, and climate change crisis. And concrete, as one of the most destructive materials on Earth, is one of the main problems. It's sand and water consuming with high carbon footprints, responsible for 50 billion tons of aggregate being extracted from Earth, 1/10 of the world's industrial water use, and 8% of the world's annual CO2 production, as the third largest carbon dioxide emitter in the world. So we came up with creating an eco-concrete that is cement-free, and we mix it with recycled waste to replace the aggregate and cure it with CO2.
Mavacrete is our proprietary carbon sequestering concrete, and we plan to take recycled material, recycled industrial waste to create a cement-free binder, and treated recycled plastic as replacement of aggregate in the mix. We will also use recycled plastic fiber to help prevent cracking and to replace steel reinforcements found in traditional concrete structures. Companies like CarbonCure have already established technologies that introduce recycled CO2 into fresh concrete to reduce the carbon footprint. In our material, using this technology will actually enhance its performance. Once injected, the CO2 undergoes mineralization process and becomes permanently embedded, binding together the steel slag granules. This process strengthens the quality of the recycled materials, resulting in performance enhancement while also sequestering carbon. Unlike other material companies on the market whose carbon curing techniques require that the concrete is produced in molds and airtight vessels, our process and materials will allow for additive manufacturing, which is projected to be a game changer in the realm of construction technologies. We have already built a prototype and functioning 3D printer that is capable of extruding concrete in multiple layers, which will be crucial in ensuring the ability to 3D print our material. And though our current goals are very much centered on creating a material that would revolutionize the construction industry with many different applications, our long-term vision includes giving more people access to safe, affordable, and eco-friendly housing that can be quickly built and scaled up. This eco-friendly 3D printable material will allow for the creation of affordable, mixed-use, and transit-oriented communities. 3D printing enables the creation of structures with very little environmental impact, as the amount of material can be precisely calculated before the build, severely cutting down on construction-related wastes, and thus allowing for the ultimate sustainable material, process, and eventually communities. Our plan to go to market includes direct sales and strategic alliances with both construction and 3D printing companies. We are currently in conversation with 2 construction companies and 2 3D printing companies, and are hoping to soon bring 25 units to market. To summarize the benefits of our material, Mavacrete is stronger, cures faster, uses local waste materials, is carbon sequestering, and is 3D printable.
There are currently 3 groupings in the market: the existing conventional concrete companies and some interesting new players on the mix who are trying to use carbon sequestering technology, and 2 of our main competitors. We are intending to recycle more source material and also use use a better carbon capture system that can remove more amount of CO2 from the environment. As we can see, there's a massive market, more than enough for all the suppliers currently in our industry. And there will be a robust demand for material for the next 50 years, as California is committed to reach carbon neutrality for the cement industry by 2045, and the cement consumption is going to reach 150 million tons by 2038, and LA will face 300% river sand shortage by 2025. Our revenue model is B2B. We are planning to utilize US 45Q tax credits on $50 per tons for CO2 capture, and our revenue will reach to 3.6 million by the end of year 2. We advance 8 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, starting from innovation and infrastructure to sustainable cities, responsible consumption, climate action, reducing inequality, no poverty, life on land, and partnership for growth. This is our team, highly experienced in sustainable design, robotic and architecture, mechanical design, 3D printing, and material science. Our board of advisors, these are top people in their field in order to help us to achieve our goal and be successful, from business development to funding, R&D, 3D printing, and award-winning material science. We have already graduated from Founder Institute's Silicon Valley as one of top 12 companies. We have won SADS business pitch competition. We have 4 advisors on board. We have registered the company, and we have built our first 3D printer by the end of Q1 of 2021. And we have 3 team members on board. We have tested our material. We are collaborating with 2 3D printing companies and 2 construction companies on 25 units. We are planning to apply for X Prize $100 million carbon removal competition, advancing our R&D process for the second quarter of 2021, and have started the documentary process to raise awareness about our solution. We will launch our crowdfunding campaign by the end of Q3 and test our materials 3D printing ability, and we'll build our first full-scale MVP by the end of Q4.
Winning the prize money would mean that we could scale up our research and development process and work towards finalizing our formula. The prize money would be catalytic in the effect on our material science research and would allow us to get to market much faster by creating the right environment for advancing the ultimate formula. We are very excited about the work that has been done so far and where we are going, and thank you all for listening and being here today. Let's reshape our civilization to better serve both the Earth and humanity.
Wonderful. Thank you, Team Mama. Really appreciate it. And I'm sure we'll have a range of questions from the judges here. So virtual hands and then live hands from you all. Let me know, see who would like to go first here. Liddy, love it.
Yeah. Well, I'm all into waste. I've spent a lot of my career doing waste. So I'm very excited about what you're doing. That presentation helped me understand a little bit better what you're up to. But I'm still not clear. Are you guys, what's your product? Is it the printer? Is it the housing? Is it the service? I'm not sure.
It's the material.
So yeah, we're working to develop the eco cement that is carbon sequestering and 3D printable. The important part about it being 3D printable is that a lot of the carbon sequestering mixes on the market currently need to be cured in molds and airtight containers, which kind of limits their use. So we're hoping that our material is both eco-friendly, carbon sequestering, using recycled materials, and also can be used in a wide variety of applications.
Okay, so it's the material. And then you're hoping someone else has a printer that'll solve the problem, or that already exists. Do those two companies already do that?
Yeah, we are already partnering with 2 3D printing company and construction companies. So we are in conversation to basically have a strategic alliance with 3D printing companies and construction companies to bring our vision to life. But what's lacking in the market is the sustainable eco-concrete. That's why we're working on this, to basically fill the gap to reach our vision.
And do you need sort of approval, some kind of government regulatory approval to make sure that this material is acceptable for construction, or no?
Yeah, so we will ASTM test our material, and we will have proof of like structural and tensile strengths that the material can be used for the construction industry and can be approved by building department.
Okay. And have you secured a source of supply for the materials that go into it, the ingredients?
Currently, we are
yeah.
using local materials.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks, Liddy. Sam, you got the digital hand up. Let's hear from you.
Thank you so much. Awesome presentation. I'm just curious a little bit about the carbon sequestration technology that you're using. Is that something, I know Carbon Cure just recently won the Carbon X Prize. So I'm curious, are you working with them to, kind of lease that technology from them? Or you're building your own proprietary technology? How are you kind of focusing on that?
Yeah, we would be looking to partner with a company like Carbon Cure, who has already developed the technology. And the main reason for doing that is that our material, actually, the recycled components of our material are strengthened when carbonated. So we are really working on optimizing the formula to be strongest and use the most recycled material what we can while using technologies already established like Carbon Cure's carbon sequestration.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Anastasia, go ahead.
Well, just along the same line, seeing as you're focused on the material so much, can you tell us more about the sourcing of the recycled materials that will go into it, and if that, will change? Because I know it's hard to get high quality recycled content to put into whatever material you want to use it for. And if that's going to change the sort of ASTM testing and the structure, and or even the sort of chemical reaction for turning this into a carbon negative product. And how, so the question, I guess, is sort of how variable can you have those source materials of recycled content and still meet all the standards and so on?
Yeah, so we are currently looking at PP and PE recycled plastic, and we will use gamma irradiation to increase the binding of the plastic with other ingredients of our material. And this has already been proven and will increase the structural ability of our material. But we are looking into like newest technology, like basically once we advance our R&D, we are looking at using the mixture of all different recycled plastic to create a new material that can be used for structural applications. But currently we can use the mixture of plastics just for non-structural applications.
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Sure.
On the 45Q tax credit, I know a little bit about it because at the Yale Carbon Containment Lab, we're looking at it closely as well for some new applications. Do you know if the IRS in the US is going to accept concrete as a carbon storage material?
Yeah.
Okay.
It is already.
And so you would
yeah.
qualify for that directly.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean, I think we'd all probably like to understand the sort of financial model and the cost structure, and like how much extra this new EcoCrete concrete would cost relative to normal concrete, or even relative to, say, Carbon Cure.
We are actually hoping to make it like 20% cheaper than the normal concrete, because we're going to reduce the amount of water in our material. That would reduce the cost. And that's basically what we are looking at right now, which is kind of like 20% more cost effective. And we also have like 50% profit margin.
Okay.
Thank you. Kina.
Yeah, thank you. Wonderful presentation. I have a somewhat basic question that was, I think, asked earlier, but I'm asking it in a different way. Part of my bio that Stuart didn't mention is I was also in the military. And this reminded me of whenever we were trying to find ways to create, places for people to live in various environments. So my question to you is actually a two-parter. As you are looking to source material in different locations, how would you rapidly test its ability to withstand, various temperature, various climates that might be in those areas? And then the second one, again, given those resources, the humans that are living in it, one thing that we always test in the military is just like allergens and just, people being able to live. in those spaces without it negatively impacting them. So how would you like test that as well?
Yeah, so concrete already is one of the most toxic materials on earth that we are currently using for our construction. And what we are doing right now is basically we're replacing the aggregate with recycled plastic, which is going to be embedded in concrete and has been tested that doesn't leach toxic materials to the air. So this problem is actually not even considered. What we are in terms of keeping the structurability of the plastic, once we use gamma irradiation, there will be some chemical reactions that will strengthen the material that can withstand like in any extreme environments and can just bind with the cement and the other part of our concrete material. We are hoping to actually reach to a point through our R&D that we can use a mixture of the plastics rather than certain type of plastic which has already been recycled to increase the value of a material through recycling the plastic that cannot be recycled. And there's one company in Israel which is currently doing it, and we are trying to have like a conversation with them to see if we can maybe partner with them or just like try to have some sort of collaboration so far, so we can basically use the plastic that cannot be recycled as well in future once we get to that point through our R&D.
And just to add, in terms of materials, locally sourced materials, which was the other part of your question, we hope to do enough R&D testing to have a good range of kind of acceptable values in each of the ingredients in our mix. And also would just like to add that the study MIT did on gamma irradiation on a mixture of plastic proved that it both decontaminated the plastic as well as increased the binding ability. So that is very good for our application.
Great. I think we have time for one last question. Alexi, you put down your hand, right? So you're good?
I can ask one real quick if no one else has. I guess my question is how, I guess from a philosophic angle, how does valorizing plastic or making plastic have value work hand in hand with reducing plastic globally, or how do you envision that working?
Sorry, would you please repeat the question?
Sure. My question is, how does creating value out of plastic or assigning a value to plastic help reduce plastic waste globally?
Yeah, so we take the plastic, that's our long-term vision. So far, we take the recyclable plastic, but our long-term vision is to take the plastic that cannot be recycled and is already in the wasteland and just use it to address even sand shortage problem. So we turn it to a material that can be used as a construction material and will be embedded in the construction, in the building for like more than 100 years. So we are taking the plastic out of the environment and reuse it, and it won't go back to the environment anymore.
Yeah, our view is kind of there's already enough plastic out there, waste contaminating environments, that will be using that and not incentivizing the creation of more.
Thank you, team. Really appreciate it. And we always have more questions than we have time for, so we'll save those for the judges' deliberation room. Our next team, and thank you, Mala, Shoots. So thrilled to have Shoots with us. Shoots invigorates farmers to grow more crops on less land, more sustainably, using a biostimulant. Shoots, the floor is yours.
Awesome, thank you. So, hi, I'm Kevin, and I'm the co-founder of Shoots. We're on a mission to usher in a new age of agricultural sustainability and prosperity by invigorating farmers to grow more crops on less land sustainably with our new proprietary product. This is to advance us towards our vision of a sustainable world with full plates. Today, we're at an environmental crossroads. We live on a planet that's getting warmer. There's more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere than at any point in human history, and we'll have 10 billion mouths to feed by 2050. The crux of the problem is that there's too much carbon in the atmosphere warming the planet and not enough in the soil keeping crops healthy. Soil carbon is the key to fertility, growth, and the health of an ecosystem. Between 25 and 40% of the excess carbon in the atmosphere didn't come from those smokestacks right there. Rather, they came from the soil. Just look at those two soil samples above. If I was a tomato plant, I know where I'd want to grow. and this has caused farmers to become completely reliant on synthetic fertilizer, which is a root cause of the problem. Shoots Plant Growth Enhancer changes this by invigorating farmers to grow more crops on less land sustainably, breaking the fertilizer dependency cycle and putting carbon back where it belongs, in the soil. By leveraging the size of modern agriculture, we can sequester an immense amount of carbon. And to do this, our product is a plant growth enhancer. Not many people realize that modern plant growth enhancers, the entire field, was discovered here at Yale by Dr. Berlin, my partner and co-founder. Developed as a byproduct of biotechnical research, plant growth enhancers, also referred to as biostimulants, are non-fertilizer products that stimulate key metabolic growth pathways. Developed for over 40 years, our product is a combination of vitamins, amino acids, coenzymes, and other non-hormonal bioactive materials that's dissolved in water and sprayed on the soil around plants. It's analogous almost to a plant nutrient shot that increases growth, health, and carbon sequestration. And most importantly, they're comprised of naturally occurring compounds and is 100% safe. To prove just how safe it is, I actually have some right here, but please don't try this at home. We're certainly not a beverage company, but you couldn't pay me to drink fertilizer, Roundup, or the other chemicals that we spray our food with. But a picture speaks 1,000 words. Our biostimulant increases fresh biomass by 216% over synthetic fertilizer alone, as published in our most recent peer-reviewed paper in agronomy. Also, it allows farmers to decrease their fertilizer use by 20 to 50% every year down to zero, slowly weeding off fertilizer. For low input farming, shoots can boost yield by 1,150%. And here are some pictures showing the power of shoots on radish. Here's a mathematical breakdown of the fresh biomass from the prior slide. The dark green bar received just water, the middle bar is fertilizer, and the top bar, well, that's shoots. Additionally, the biostimulant works on all plants. Here's a test on paper birch, and we've also tested on soybeans, lettuce, tomatoes, cacao, cowpea, among others. To touch upon exactly how it works, Dr. Berlin has identified the metabolic pathways that limit plant growth. Biostimulants are based off the observation that exogenously applying small amounts of select metabolites can relieve the limiting factor and release the growth bottleneck. Here's an example of just one of the limiting pathways, the exorbic acid glutathione antioxidant pathway, which is how plants deal with stress and, frankly, stay alive. Specifically, in this particular pathway, we're targeting these 3 steps highlighted in the green boxes. Sans biostimulant, this pathway isn't able to operate at its peak efficiency, but our product stimulates this pathway, invigorating plants to grow more and leads to the results that you just saw. Think of it almost as releasing a bottleneck in traffic on I-95. When you boost the limiting factor, that is the slowest car, you're able to go much, much faster. The benefits are also environmental. Plants evolved over millions of years to pull carbon out of the atmosphere and turn it into the building blocks for life. They store much of that carbon in the soil by excreting sugar water through their roots to feed beneficial bacteria, sure, similar to the beneficial bacteria in our own digestive systems. Modern agriculture, however, disrupts this, turning that rich black alluvial soil into the sandy concrete dirt devoid of all life. Shoots and related conservation land management practices can prevent and sequester up to 9.6 tons of carbon per acre a year. For just corn and soybeans alone, multiply that by the 132.5 million acres not under full-time regenerative practices, and that's 1.3 billion metric tons of carbon dioxide, or 19% of the United States total emissions. Through leveraging the sheer size of industrial agriculture, we can make a huge impact. To do this, we're currently in field trials. Then in 2022, we'll launch in the Chesapeake Bay watershed. We've all heard of carbon offset credits, but what's novel to many is fertilizer nutrient offset credits. Essentially, farmers will be paid to replace fertilizer with shoots while simultaneously increasing the amount of food they can grow. We can also drastically reduce fertilizer pollution in the region, invigorating the ecosystem, and that also means more fish for striped bass season. Additionally, when 10,000 medium-sized farms adopt our products, that would be the same as taking 1 million cars off the road and feeding an extra 1.5 million people. In 2023, we'll take off our training wheels and fully launch for general irrigated U.S. row crop agriculture. we have great traction. Through partnerships with the Connecticut state government, corporations, and privately owned farms, our product is being applied to fields across New York and Connecticut to enhance crop yield this season right now. The feedback we're getting has been fantastic as well. Usually it's, well, why don't we apply shoots to the entire farm? But we're not limited just to the tri-state area. We have research partnerships across the globe. Additionally, we have a partnership established with an African company, and following our field trial, we have an established distribution network ready to sell shoots across Nigeria and Ghana. The Sabin Prize would be extremely catalytic for shoots because it would enable us to rigorously pursue our field pilots. It would fully fund our Africa trial and allow us to expand to additional farms in the Midwest. It would also allow us to build inventory and marketing infrastructure necessary for our Chesapeake Bay launch. The total addressable market is massive. This is how we grow food and nourish our population, which hasn't changed since the turn of the century. There are 4.62 billion acres of global farmland. That's larger than Russia. We're focusing in on irrigated US row crop agriculture as our serviceable addressable market. This is because our product can be applied directly through existing irrigation infrastructure, requiring no investment, and the US has the most industrialized agricultural industry. Agriculture is a commodities business with a human twist, meaning that in many cases, it's a winning product takes all type of market. When a product increases yield and then pays for itself, it's readily adopted. And after careful study of the product adoption curves of fertilizer, hybrid crops, and GMO seeds, and in tandem with the extreme consolidation that exists in the sector, we project that we can capture 30% of the irrigated US agriculture row crop sector by 2027, representing a $41.9 billion market opportunity and 2 billion tons of carbon sequestered or prevented every year. This would also directly increase soil carbon content, prevent soil erosion, and reduce fertilizer runoff and pollution. And that's without the need to mine lithium ion for batteries, plant 1 trillion trees, or develop a new technology. We're ready to go. Farmers will have a strong ROI through increased yield that falls directly to the bottom line and other decreased input costs. Not to mention, we're replacing fertilizer with something that's actually good for Mother Nature. We're the company that's going to capture this market. We've identified our B2B industrial competition to be Indigo Ag, Locust Ag, and Bayer Monsanto Crop Science. The latter doesn't even have a product yet. Shoots has the highest increase in growth, is not a microbial inoculant, and has the largest environmental impact because we're the only product proven to be able to replace fertilizer. To prove ourselves against the retail competition that I'm sure some members of the audience are familiar with, we've tested head-to-head against Miracle-Gro, Neptune's Harvest, and SN14. The invention is patentable and defendable, and the university owns the IP. We're working closely with OCR to get exclusive licensing. Legally, the product's a soil amendment and easy to be registered. For distribution, we're pursuing a dual strategy of direct B2B and large channel partners. For production, we're searching for toll contract manufacturers. And for future product launches, that's Graham and I in Greeley Memorial Greenhouse here at Yale, because we're always innovating. Most importantly, we have the team to get this done. Dr. Graham Berlin is a professor in the School of the Environment, and he invented the field of modern biostimulants in the 1980s. He's the world expert in this field, and he's the head of research. I'm Kevin Gallagher, and I'm dedicating myself to growing shoots. I graduated Yale semester early this past December after double majoring econ and S&DS, and I was Graham's research assistant, helping him develop the most recent formula iteration. I'm in charge of the business end of things. Our team of advisors is also invaluable, including former board member of ADM, Financial World Titans, and venture capital executives. So I invite you to join us in the largest agriculture revolution since the advent of synthetic NPK fertilizer. Together, we can achieve a world of sustainable agriculture. Also, please let me know if you'd like some free samples for everyone's summer gardens. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Potentially not to drink, but to put in your garden.
Yes, it doesn't taste good.
Great. To our judges, I'm sure there are lots of questions out there. Digital hands or wave at me. Who would like to start? Sam, kick us off, please.
Awesome presentation. Thank you so much. I'm curious, a lot of people think about like the time to impact. What is the actual, timeline that you've seen for farmers to wean off fertilizers and completely switch?
So the limiting factor there is how quickly the microbes in the soil can bounce back to life. it takes about 2 years for all the microbiology to spring back. And that's why we recommend that you slowly wean off fertilizer, starting with a 20 to 50% reduction and then going down to 0. And then in 3 to 4 years, depending on a case-by-case basis, that's when you can get to 0 fertilizer.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Great.
And thank you for that question.
Wonderful. Keith, you had your hand up as well.
Yes. So you had mentioned something about 30% by 2027. Was that 30% market share you're referring to, or growth? Okay. So my question then had to do with your production, because I'm wondering what the ingredients and sourcing are like, and what kind of supply chain you have set up for those, and is it yet set up and ready for that kind of scale of growth? Because you're talking about 30% of a massive market.
It's not yet set up for that. Right now, it's geared towards the pilot trials that were going on right now. And my board of advisors, one of my advisors is trying to set up we're exploring possibilities of using the existing market incumbents as distribution channels and for supply chain sourcing. But yeah, we're slowly setting that up. Sorry, I don't know if I answered your question.
Yes, you certainly did. Thank you.
Liddy, you were unmuting. You have a question.
It was. Thank you. It's so exciting what you're doing, Kevin. So
Thank
since
you.
you're in charge of the business side, can you talk a little bit about pricing, margins, how this company grows, what you need in terms of capital to get to what you see you could achieve?
Yeah, so for the margins, one of the main purposes of our current field trials is to precisely ascertain the value added out in the field, and that will be the crux of how we do our pricing strategy. But preliminarily, our margins will be between 30 and 45%, which is good for the fertilizer sector. For the capital needs, we're trying to go with a capital light business model, at least to begin with. And that's why we've chosen the route of using a toll contract manufacturer, so we don't have to put steel in the ground from day one. Our costs right now are the raw material input costs for the field trials, and then we'll go from there. The largest cost going forward will be developing a marketing and distribution, creating that infrastructure for a Chesapeake Bay launch. And
Will you do a license and distribution third-party model, or will you do license and distribution direct model?
So we're pursuing both possibilities right now. The moment the university finishes the IP process, I'll be in ADM's boardroom trying to figure out if we could use the license model. But we're also keeping the direct B2B model open as well.
Great, thanks.
Of course, thank you for your question.
Great, Anastasia.
I have lots of questions. I'm also really excited by this. I guess just to hone in on the carbon side and then the organic certifications, and if you're going to pursue that, if this fits with the existing standards for organic certifications is one thing. And then on the offset side, have you thought about tying into an existing methodology that's recognized by carbon offsets markets, or are you talking about creating a new methodology? And if it's the latter, I understand it takes 1 year to 2 years to get that done, and you'll need a lot of multi-stakeholder. But if you're thinking about doing that, I'd love to hear what the plan is.
Of course, and thank you for those questions. For the organic certification side, unfortunately, we won't be able to be a certified organic under the USDA's current rules. And the reason for that is some of the inputs, although they're chemically identical to the inputs from natural sources, which are approved for organic cultivation, getting them from natural sources is cost prohibitive. So we will in the future have a formula variant that is approved for organic agriculture, but that's down the line. And for the carbon offset side of things, that is something we're exploring very vigorously, and we're would like to tie into existing companies that monetize soil carbon sequestration. I'm particularly impressed by companies such as Nori and companies such as that. I'm trying to think what the other part of the question was.
No, I think that was it. There were two parts and you answered them. So thank you.
Yeah. And the carbon offset side is it's really exciting, because that would be the ultimate tailwind for farmers getting paid to replace fertilizer with shoots.
Additional questions from our judges? Alexia.
Hey, Kevin, thanks for the presentation. I guess I'm wondering, in terms of the market sizing within the irrigated crop large market, are there any specific crops that you all are targeting, whether there's more of an economic upside or more of a need within those markets based on your customer research?
Yeah, the crops we're targeting are predominantly soybeans, corn, and wheat. And the reason why we're targeting that is those are the crops that are most prevalent in industrial ag, and that makes up the large, I think that's high 90s for the percentage of the food that's grown. And those are also the crops with the largest environmental impact and the ones that are suffering the most for soil degradation. And so yeah, those are the crops that we're targeting. And for the irrigation side, we're targeting that niche specifically because this can tie into existing irrigation infrastructure requiring no incremental benefit or no incremental investment.
Thank you. Lydia, another question.
Yeah, I do. Working on this for 40 years, what finally changed that it becomes commercializable? And can you describe that a little bit, or have they tried to commercialize it in the past? Can you talk about that?
Of course. So Dr. Berlin had his first company in the 1980s. The patent was filed in 1988, and that went throughout the 90s. And the problem back then was the biostimulant field was discovered by Graham in 1980. So the world didn't accept it as a science back then. And the market just wasn't ready and wasn't developed enough.
What was that called?
It was called Roots.
Oh, okay, so I wondered, I remember Roots. Okay,
You do?
Great. Yes, I do. I'm old. Okay.
And then additionally, in 2019, we added Graham discovered a additional input into the formula that increased its efficacy by another 62%. So that goes from 100 to 200. And that just helps the economics, well, that much more.
Great, thank you.
Great. I think we have time for one last quick question, if someone has one. All right. Go ahead, Keith.
Yeah, just a really quick one. Do you have plans for expanding your team to fill any critical needs?
Yes. So our first hire is going to be a CMO for the marketing side for our Chesapeake Bay launch. And most of our current needs is I've been dealing with that by expanding our board of advisors, pulling in industry experts and pulling in industry experts to really have all the skill sets that we need.
Thanks so much.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much, Kevin. Really appreciate your presentation. Well done, Shoots.
Thank you.
Well done, everybody. We're doing it on time. Great questions from the judges. Continued great work by the entrepreneurs. Our final presentation is Packables. Packables is a sustainable packaging company that manufactures and distributes compostable and recycled packaging. The floor is yours, Packables.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to share my screen. Awesome. What's up? My name's Shervin. I'm the founder and CEO at Packables. And the best way for me to tell you how we're going to change the packaging industry is for me to tell you how I came up with the idea. Just 10 months ago, I was packaging and shipping products for a clothing company when I suddenly realized the magnitude of the waste created when we ship. As I'm sure you all know, e-commerce has been growing exponentially, and COVID-19 has only accelerated this trend. To put this into perspective, in 2019, Amazon delivered 2.5 billion packages to homes like yours and mine. Just 2 short years later, this number has more than doubled to the 6.5 billion packages that they will deliver this year. So it's no coincidence then that the packaging industry has become the #1 producer of plastic waste globally. And the scary part is that just 14% of this waste ends up getting recycled. The rest is incinerated, left in landfills, or pollutes our waterways and wildlife. And we solve this problem through the sale of our sustainable, brand-enhancing alternatives to conventional virgin paper and plastic packaging. Our first solution is a 100% compostable polymailer. It is made of a blend of cornstarch and PBAT, which is a bio-based polymer. They are certified to compost in just 180 days at your home or in as little as 90 days in an industrial composting facility, leaving nothing harmful behind. We also have a 1-for-1 model where we plant a tree for every purchase, and we've teamed up with One Tree Planted to execute this. So we've launched this product just 6 months ago, and in the past 6 months, the response has been overwhelming. We have sold over 315,000 mailers and have received strong interest and are currently sampling with the companies below and many more. So this success of our first product, along with customer demand and feedback, enabled us to launch our second solution, which is 100% recycled packaging. And these mailers are certified by the Global Recycling Standard to be made of 100% post-consumer recycled polyethylene. These serve as the perfect type of packaging for any high volume and low margin business looking for a cost-effective, sustainable alternative. And we are thrilled to announce a new feature on all our packaging, which is a QR code that is printed on the back. This shows the end recipient sustainability facts on the packaging they received, as well as disposal information on where to throw them away. We've also expanded our product line to 100% compostable shipping labels, which no longer have to be removed from the compostable mailers before composting. And this innovation is going to help so many more people dispose of the mailers correctly. We've also launched recycled or compostable clothing bags, which allow us to work with any purpose-driven apparel company. And lastly, by popular demand, we've launched compostable bubble mailers. And these allow us to expand to the cosmetics and skincare industry because the products they ship are a little more fragile. We currently have 3 direct competitors that focus exclusively on the sale of sustainable packaging. And while they all have their own blends of compostable mailers, they are mainly focused on selling to smaller individual e-commerce merchants. These are people like Etsy, Depop, and Poshmark sellers. And while a large portion of our current revenue does come from selling to these individuals, we understand that to have the biggest environmental impact possible, we need to partner with large corporations to change the way that they package. The other smaller businesses will then follow suit. We also pride ourselves in our transparency. We show all our partners every step of the manufacturing process, as well as all our certifications. Because if you're going to invest the time, energy, and resources to use sustainable packaging and make this world a better place, you deserve to know exactly what your packaging is made of. Unlike our competitors, the cornstarch used in our mailers is made from discarded corn that is no longer fit for human consumption. And we've also developed a new blend that has a 2 to 3 times higher cornstarch to PBAT ratio than our competitors, making our bags more sustainable. And lastly, we are super excited to be creating a low-cost and sustainable alternative to corrugated cardboard boxes, one of the most common forms of packaging. It'll be made of a proprietary blend of bamboo fibers, and it will be our first product that is IP protected. Our current team consists of myself. I'm a first-year student at Yale College, and I have experience starting 2 six-figure businesses, as well as a software company that was successfully acquired earlier this year. On our advisory team, we have Scott Melland, who is a board member at one of the largest fulfillment centers in the country, as well as my uncle Farzan, who is the CEO at a purpose-driven benefit corporation called Lotus Sustainables. We also have a team of 4 amazing interns that play a huge role in our social media management, marketing, and website development. In 2021, we're looking to add a COO, as well as building out a mission-driven sales team to help with our enterprise sales model. And in our first year of revenue, we are projected to do over $700,000. We have been maintaining a 35 to 40% gross margin, and this is very high compared to the packaging industry standard of just a 15% gross margin. And to break down a little more what this year is going to look like, just over half of that revenue is going to come from our B2B contracts. The remainder is going to come from those individual e-commerce merchants I was talking about earlier. And as we grow our sales team, the B2B percentage is going to increase a lot more over the coming years, and that's going to be the main driver behind our revenue growth. And we also have a list of 4 sustainability checkpoints we are looking to hit this year. We're going to start the process to become a benefit corporation. We are going to continue carrying out our 1-for-1 model. We are going to be introducing offsetting all the carbon emissions that stem from the shipment of our packaging to our customers. And we're going to become the first packaging company to donate 75,000 compostable mailers to small businesses and institutions. We are doing this to spread the message of sustainable packaging. And for me to paint the picture of what the future of Packables is going to look like, we need to understand what happened just last month. So we spent the better part of April negotiating our first large-scale contract with an awesome company called Love Your Melon. And every 6 months, we will be helping them transition anywhere from 500,000 to 3.5 million plastic mailers and polybags to our sustainable lines of packaging. This will amount to a minimum of $200,000 in revenue every 6 months. And what's very interesting is as we reach the later stages of the negotiation, several of their licensing partners reached out to us and are now sampling our packaging as well. One of these corporations is the Walt Disney Corporation. So we have experienced a snowball effect that for every new brand we begin working with, subsequent customer acquisition becomes easier because of the trust and value built in our proven line of sustainable packaging. And I'm a firm believer that one of the most important factors in the success of any venture is timing. And at Packables, we have been given a golden opportunity with the traction we've received and the brands we are working with to become one of the first and leading truly sustainable packaging corporations. Now, packaging is a very capital-intensive business, and we need the Sabin's help at this critical time to onboard a purpose-driven sales team as soon as possible. They will be helping us execute the time-sensitive contracts we currently have in our pipeline, as well as building out new relationships to capitalize on the momentum we have. And at the end of the day, our main goal is to eliminate the use of virgin papers and plastics in packaging. And as a consumer, you have so much power. The next time you receive a shipment from a company that is irresponsibly packaged, please write them an email or tag them in a social media post to make them aware of this problem. Because by raising awareness, we can win this battle against packaging waste together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Packables. Certainly, we have a number of questions from the judges. So raised hands virtually or wave at me. Who is ready to roll? Kino, you are you look like you're ready to. Nope. Okay, Alexia. Nope. Also no. All right. Hey, we've got stunned silence here. Who's got a question?
I have a question.
Great, Liddy. Thanks.
So super impressed with what you've accomplished in such a short period of time. How are you, two questions actually. One is, what's your supply chain to make these packages, and the source of the material that you're using? You mentioned is waste corn. Is that a limited supply? Is there sufficient supply for that? And then the other question is, you mentioned that you are also doing this post-consumer cheaper package. That makes me think that maybe your compostable package is at a premium price point. Can you describe the price point? And I'm going to borrow from Alexia's question, which I know is on her mind. Why use the post-consumer plastics when we know we just want to get rid of plastics completely, and that's kind of your overarching trajectory?
Great question. And first off, thank you for the kind words. I have a little cost comparison right here. So you bring up a great point, right? We don't like plastic, but unfortunately, there is so much plastic that something needs to be done with it. And recycling it right now is a very good option, because there are a lot of businesses that can't immediately switch over to compostable packaging. This is a company like Shipmonk that ships anywhere from 1.5 to 2 million packages like every 3 months. And this incremental increase in cost doesn't necessarily justify the added value they're getting, because we sell more than a sustainability aspect to our packaging. We are selling revenue, because our packaging is a marketing asset for a company. It gives them an opportunity to create a strong first impression on their customer and build value in their own brand. But a third-party logistics warehouse that basically picks and packs bulk items doesn't really care about this first impression. So they need a low-cost and sustainable alternative. And that is what recycled packaging offers, because we can sell it at just around the same price as conventional packaging, or maybe at like half a penny to a penny more. So that's the reason why we launched it. And I believe, to answer the first part of your question, our packaging is currently manufactured overseas. We have exclusive rights to manufacture and distribute our packaging from the manufacturer that we work with, because we've jointly developed the blends that are used in our packaging. And at some point in the future, we are hopeful to bring that over to the United States, but that is a minimum of 1 year to 2 away.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Great. Thank you. Other questions from the judges? Keith.
Yeah, I have one, and it goes with a bit of the previous question in terms of the positioning of your recycled content material. I understand the purpose for introducing that. On the compostable side, one of my constant questions is, how do you get people to compost? Because to have the impacts that you want to have, these things ultimately have to end up being composted, not just being discarded in another plastic bag somewhere where they're just not going to be a benefit from that. So could you talk a little bit about how you've thought through changing consumer behaviors in this whole cradle to cradle kind of approach?
Of course. No, that's a great question. And that question kept me up at night for a long time. So there was an issue with customers, not really, because not everyone has a composting bin. So first of all, composting needs to become much more accessible. And if you guys don't have a composting bin, please get one, because it's amazing. But apart from that, that is why we introduced the compostable shipping labels. And that's also why we introduced the QR code that I mentioned on the back. So we are looking to not only sell compostable packaging, but also educate the end consumer. And we understand that, unfortunately, not everyone's going to compost these, even no matter how easy we make it. And the good thing is, even if it's thrown in a landfill, it will fully biodegrade, not leaving any microplastic. It doesn't even have plastic in it. It will fully biodegrade in 1.5 to 2 years. So this also means, unfortunately, that our mailers do have a shelf life. And that is why we recommend all our customers to order inventory for less than 1 year, so that they don't have any issues with this. So there's the short answer. Let me know if you want me to expand on it a little more.
Anastasia.
Great. I'm curious about a few things, but can you tell us, you didn't touch much on like if you're raising capital or if you plan to, how you've sort of supported the company thus far, have you bootstrapped it? Can you just tell us what the existing status is and if you plan to do that in the future? It looks like you're kind of off to the races already, very, very busy. So can you tell us if you're planning on raising money, and then if you did, what you'd use it for?
So we'd need to raise money at some point early next year. So far, I have been bootstrapping the entire business, and it's been very capital intensive. The reason I haven't been able to look at raising money yet was because I recognize the opportunity in front of us and the opportunity we have to build on this, the momentum, and solidify ourselves as a brand. So I've just been putting my head down, working on selling, forming new relationships, developing the products. And I was able to bootstrap the entire thing. So I didn't really need to raise capital. Obviously, that presents a risk standpoint from my own side, but I really believe in the company. So we are looking to raise early next year, and we'd be using that money to really scale up our inventory, because due to capital restrictions, I could only order 95,000 recycled plastic packagings. And they haven't even arrived at Long Beach Port yet, and over 85% of them have already been sold out. So definitely need money to order inventory and continue R&D efforts to innovate our packaging.
Great, thank you. Other questions? Liddy, you unmuted again. Is that?
I was wondering what the comparative uptake or sales are between the compostable packages and the recycled plastics. What kind of packages, what kind of volume are you doing in each?
Great question. So, well, to start off, we are a very new company. Like, it took me 4 or 5 months of just developing the packaging, and then 6 months we've had so far to sell them. And recycled was launched about 2 months ago, along with all our other products. So we've already sold around 70,000 recycled mailers. We have custom orders that are currently amount to like around 150 to 200,000 of them. And for compostable, the majority of the Love Your Melon contract is going to be compostable, but so that's anywhere from 500,000 to 3.5 million on top of the 315,000 that we've sold directly to individual e-commerce merchants.
And that's where the 700,000 in revenues comes from, kind of.
So I was very conservative when estimating that, because just on e-commerce alone, like this year in Amazon, if we continue our monthly revenue, which January, February, and March are historically very low compared to November and December, we are going to hit around 200,000 to 300,000 in Amazon alone, another 70 to 100,000 in our website, 50 to 75,000 on Etsy, and with the one Love Your Melon contract, we would already be just about hitting 700,000. And if we onboard the sales team, because all the contracts we have so far has just been me sending emails to procurement managers at companies and harassing CEOs, not like that, but like, so if we can onboard that, I am very confident it's going to be significantly above it, but I understand you have to be conservative in your estimates in case something happens.
So you need working capital then at this point, because you have to pay
Yes.
for the materials before you can sell them. And do you customize them a lot, like printing people's names, etc.?
Yes, so I actually have one other slide. This is, so a big part of our revenue, and this is going to be the main driver moving forward, is our custom packaging orders. So if you're a large company, you're going to want your own brand on it. And we currently have a minimum order quantity of just 5,000 to 10,000 mailers. So this is kind of what the process looks like, and these are the terms. So we are setting ourselves up to have a pretty much cash neutral cycle, or maybe just a very small loss, because of the 35 to 40% net margin we receive, as well as us receiving the 60% deposit up front.
Right, the deposit's key. That's great.
Yes. So that's what that looks like.
Thanks.
Great. And that is the final question we're going to be able to take with Packables. Really appreciate it. Wonderful job. And just to all the entrepreneurs that just presented, kudos to you all for being in your bedrooms, guest bedrooms, wherever you are, doing such a fantastic job presenting in this way with the audience sitting here. I mean, it really shows a tremendous amount of focus, creativity, and engagement to do it as well as you all four of you did it. Under the environment. So many thanks. Judges, this is an incredibly hard decision, which is why we signed you up for this. So we are going to send you out into another Zoom room, and then we hope you come back in a little over 20 minutes with a decision. For all the folks in the audience here, a couple of things are going to go on. We are going to launch a poll for you all to vote on your preferred venture for our audience prize. So that will be the first thing that we do here. We'll also have a number of questions coming in from the audience, which I can administer and solicit for everybody. And then we'd love to hear a few responses from the entrepreneurs. If you all still have the energy and time to do so, I think the audience would love to hear a bit of your perspective as well on some elements. Amy, can you launch, or Abby, can you launch the poll for us so we can get started with that? And our panelists and the administrators here cannot vote. So when you see that come up, we aren't furiously tapping the buttons. So for all you folks out there, please take a moment to vote. And I'll just start with kind of an overall question for the teams, which I think a lot of people are curious about at a high level of like, what is it like building a business or being an entrepreneur during the middle of a global pandemic? Like, what has it been like to kind of be both in your own space, kind of in your own head, and building something that has so many ripple effects out there in the world? Like, anybody who would like to step up and take that, please. Like, just how has that experience been?
I can start. I think it's actually been a really great time to start a company because there's not a lot of FOMO to do anything else. So have gotten a lot of like extra time to work on the venture. And then also I've been able to kind of talk and meet people who I don't think would normally have the time to talk to me. So I've done a lot of cold calling and made a lot of really awesome connections in the space. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to do a lot of taste tests, or give out my product, which is what I love doing. But I'm really kind of hopeful for the summer that things will get back to normal. We'll start doing some taste tests at the grocery stores that we'll sell at.
Great. Thanks, Tiffany. Other perspectives and thoughts on kind of building a business during the midst of being in your guest bedroom or wherever you are located?
I'd like something. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Kristen. Do you want to? Yeah, so I'd like to add that, like, since we're using Zoom, so there is no location restriction. So you can discuss with people around the world as if like we are all in one location. And that has actually created opportunities that we can build something far greater without the restriction of the time and cost of traveling. Which has been very valuable. Like, for example, we graduated from FI Silicon Valley without even being in Silicon Valley. So I think that's the great thing about pandemic, and also a lot of self-growth opportunity that isolation will bring. And so you can reinvent a lot of your outlook toward life and what you want and how you want to live and who you want to surround with. So.
And I think virtual conferences have also been great. That's actually how we met to start this business, was in a virtual conference. So that's been really, really great to meet a bunch of people that you probably otherwise wouldn't have gotten to.
Great. Thanks. And Sherman or Kevin, anything to add on your experience?
I think a lot of it is very industry specific, because I mean, obviously we've benefited from COVID because of the increase in shipments. But obviously, I think being able to have in-person interactions and like negotiating some deals in person is very exciting and fun. And sometimes Zoom like limits your ability to build like personal relationships with people. I would love to be doing this in person. I think it would be so much more enjoyable. But the benefit is some people that are maybe not able to come to New Haven can tune in. So there are pros and cons. I don't know if it's like necessarily good or bad. Yeah, it just really depends.
Great. Thanks for that.
And I'll jump in. I completely agree. It can be tough because Graham and I got locked out of the greenhouse in the start of the pandemic. So we lost an experiment. But now that vaccines are rolling out and everything's safer, we're able to get back in there. I agree that there's a lot lost over Zoom because you're not able to have that handshake and build a personal connection. But also it's just as easy to, with the prevalence of Zoom now, it's easy to hop in a meeting with someone in California or in Africa or on the other side of the world, which prior to the pandemic, that wasn't as prevalent.
Yeah. On another note, a theme of questions from the judges and then from the audience is kind of, you all are building, businesses with sustainability kind of embedded in the fabric of it from the ground, right? And like, how do you test and understand the sort of claims or the approaches that you have against kind of like, well, what do we want to be and do, and what are we doing, and is this sort of achieving the goal and mission of the organization? Like the questions, obviously, a number were raised on sort of the use of recycled plastic and how should we do that, or the kind of elements of transparency in a supply chain. Like, how do you kind of go back, and what are the questions you ask yourself as you're building it on, like, are we doing this the right way? Like, what are the ways that you sort of test your approach on the sustainability side as entrepreneurs?
I'm sorry, I didn't really understand the question. Do you mind repeating it just like one more time?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, so like when you think about the question of including, I can make it specific to yours. If you think about the question of like including recycled content, right? We've got a question online sort of says like, including it at all is something that we shouldn't be doing. We should be completely reconsidering it. Like when you think about the kind of goals and objectives of your venture, and where do you want to achieve an impact? Like, how do you sort of constantly stay grounded in the fact that you want this to be something that improves the health of communities and the environment, and not just makes a financial return? Like, what are the sort of questions or things you ask yourself and the tests you put yourself through to kind of make sure you're on that path?
Great question. So I think a lot of it's understanding that, at least for my case, we don't have the perfect solution right now. Like recycled packaging isn't great. I don't love it, but it's better than conventional virgin plastic packaging. So if we can like transition a small amount of people over, and like that's why we're constantly investing heavily in like new types of packaging, and that's why we're developing the whole bamboo project. So as long as you know you're doing kind of the best you can given the time you live in, the technology you have, but are always striving to like improve that and innovate, I think that's how you find the healthy balance between like sustainability and the financial side of things.
Sure. Any other perspectives on that question from the other teams? Tiffany?
Yeah, I think for Chi Foods, although there's not a lot of work being done in the Asian superfood space, there have been a lot of really awesome kind of ventures and supply chains created in other food categories that I kind of look up to and use as benchmark. So I think coffee is a really interesting space where there's a lot of sustainability being done, both on the environmental side and then also with the kind of labor efforts as well. So yeah, short answer is just kind of looking at some companies that have done it successfully. And then also, I think as if we do well, like if our sales do well, if our margins are great, then we have a opportunity to kind of change the industry as well, just through scale.
I see Kevin and Kristen rapidly typing answers to people who are online answering questions. Mariah, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so for us, I think it's very embedded in our material and like in the gene of what we're doing. So we cannot separate it. And what we have been working on mostly was like how we can make it more cost effective, how we can scale the material, and how can we onboard more people to raise awareness on our material. And once in a while, we will go back to our mission statement to just see whether we are aligned when we are doing these kind of little tweaks. And that's just like checking once in a while, like where we were, what's the path that we have already taken and where we are going. And just to find a balance helps us to reach our vision.
Great, thank you. Another question that comes up, and it came up in the Q&A, kind of what are the accelerators and incubators that you all participate in or look to be in? I know the Tsai City Summer Accelerator came up, and obviously the competitions that are in and around universities like the Sabin Prize are there to support entrepreneurs. Like, what do you look for and out of these? I mean, obviously beyond funding, but like, what are the things you're looking for in a network of people that can help you and support you as an early stage entrepreneur?
So for us specifically, a lot of it's like introduction to potential clients, but we're also completely open to like mentoring literally anyone that has any advice on like common sense business strategy. We are completely open to, because sometimes we get wrapped up in like the nitty gritty details of things and we lose sight of like where we want the business to be heading. So yeah, just talking to people is one of the most valuable things, I think.
Yeah, as a first-time entrepreneur, I took advantage of all the accelerator programs in New Haven and Yale. So I was lucky enough to be part of the Tsai CITY Fall Accelerator in 2019. And then I did a collab food business accelerator spring of 2020. And then we'll be doing the summer fellowship through Tsai CITY. And it's just been really awesome to kind of meet other entrepreneurs that have either done it already or are doing it with me. So I really grateful for those experiences. And then also outside of that, I try to kind of be a part of other entrepreneur groups. I'm in a couple of female founder groups kind of in the consumer and CPG D2C space. And that's just been really awesome to share resources as well.
So for us, it was also like very helpful because as a first-time entrepreneur, coming from architecture background, there were like a lot of things that I needed to learn in terms of the business. And plus, like the networking and the mentors, and also like all the other people who were with me in the cohort was really supportive. And like every connection leads to another connection. So we found our customers, we found our potential 3D printing partners. Me and Kristen, we found each other, and also like many very valuable mentors and advisors who have been helping us in clearing like our goal, our strategy, our business strategy, and basically pivoting also the company toward being more focused on one aspect of our vision and just tackle the rest of the problem through partnerships. So we got very clear on the business and its strategy and also the market we're going to tackle. So I think it all comes together with the help of everybody that you meet, as well as your own intuition and your own mission statement.
That's great. Kevin, go ahead.
I'd just like to hop in and thank the Tsai CITY Accelerator program that happened this last semester and concluded just last week. The team there and the community that they fostered was fantastic. As the other competitors mentioned, fantastic mentorship, and it's honestly a privilege to be a part of it. So just a shout out to them, my mentors, and all the great work that's going on over there.
Cool. Yeah, thank you for that. You know, one thing that's really evident from listening to the four teams present is you're really listening, particularly in the Q&A, like deeply listening and kind of responding to the questions that are there and kind of picking them apart. And I'm just, you know, when you talk about the advice that you get, I mean, that's something that is a little bit in short supply kind of in the globe, right? The kind of discipline of slowing down and listening and just being able to really take in what someone's asking you or asking for advice and seeking it. I'm really curious about kind of like, how does has that always been a natural inclination for you all as entrepreneurs? Do you feel like you're working on it and getting better at it as you're going through this process of building it? Like, are you naturally developing a sort of better set of skills on listening that are coming out? And like, how do you sort of practice and learn that more? So.
Well, for listening, I think it's heavily tied to sales. And as any like entrepreneur and rightful entrepreneur should do, like you're pretty much first and foremost like a salesman. And a huge part of sales is being able to listen. Now, like I said, like because of COVID, I'd love to have more calls or more like negotiations in person, but obviously that doesn't happen. A lot of it's through email now and phone calls. So listening is very important because you identify exactly the pain points of your customer, and then you can like craft your solution in a way that kind of is tailored towards them and can help them out the most. So definitely being an entrepreneur does develop your listening skills, because I don't, if you don't have great listening skills, you sometimes learn the hard way. So those are kind of my thoughts.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. The crux of the business is it revolves around the customer. The customer is always right. And no, it's a little overused term, but when you speak to customers, they always give valuable feedback. And it's great when they get excited about something, saying, hey, you should do this, this, and this. Or farmers might be receptive if you go through this channel and that channel. And at the end of the day, you'll often find that your customers want to help you with your business, and they take ownership a little bit as well. So listening to them has been some of the most invaluable advice that I've been getting.
I think also talking to as many people as possible is very helpful, especially if you have a diverse customer base, because some things that make a lot of sense to some people don't make any sense to other people. And it's really great to get those different perspectives so that your business makes sense for the most amount of people possible.
Yeah, I think listening with different kind of groups is also like, it's like different types of listening for different types of groups. So like we did maybe over like 100 or 200 customer interviews, and that's like listening to every word, kind of replaying the recordings and really trying to understand and get in the heads of our target customer. So that was very crucial. And then also, I mean, we've gotten a lot of really great feedback and advice from just anyone. And especially our advisors and mentors, and a lot of people will also be quick to give unsolicited advice, which is funny, but it's been really, really helpful. And I think also being able to kind of sort through all the information and all the advice that you're getting and trying to prioritize like what to do next and what is actually important is also a skill that I think I've still learning and developing over time.
So one of the other things that a number of you mentioned in your presentations is kind of the need to add to your group and kind of continue to expand. And there's listening to people for advice, and then there's what are the kind of questions you ask or ways that you test who should join you on that journey, and like who do you add into the team? I'm wondering, like, do you have any sort of thoughts, reflections, or insights on how you ask the questions or draw the people in that may have the aligned values and approach for what are pretty unique businesses that you're developing and building? Like, have you thought that process through, or those of you that have begun it, like what's anything that you could share with the audience that you think might work?
I think one of the most important things is just having people that have the same passion for the mission as you, because we all have purpose-driven businesses. So asking questions that help like uncover the person's like what makes them tick, like what are they passionate about? I think it's like I don't think any of this has to do with like where you went to school, what your background is, because at the end of the day, if you're very passionate about the mission, you're going to work very hard because you love it. And that I think is like one of the most, obviously my experience is very limited, but that is one of my my ways of at least doing it.
I think also just kind of surrounding yourself with people that well, this goes without saying, but have skill sets that you don't have, and maybe have just a ton of maybe like decades of experience over you. And then also people that think differently. If you bring up a topic and the things that they said you actually haven't thought about. And I'm sure everyone in this room have thought about everything or try to think about everything. And surround yourself with people that kind of also challenge some of your thoughts and just kind of things that what you're thinking and maybe things that you maybe haven't thought of before.
And Chris and Mariah, could you guys talk a little bit? It sounded like a really interesting, you met and you do have complementary skill sets. So like, how did you see it in each other that like, oh, like we should connect and this should line up? Like, I think there's questions from the audience, like how and where does that happen? And yours may have been serendipity, but was there any theme you were able to see there that might be translatable to others?
Yeah, so we met at Women in 3D Printing conference. So that was the connection point that like we both were women interested in 3D printing. And I just announced to everyone that I'm working on my company and that's what we're doing. And I would love to connect to like-minded people who are passionate. And so that's how me and Kristen, we found each other and we had a conversation. And I think another element to the skill set, other than skill set and passion, is the chemistry and how two people can work with each other and feel comfortable and also like cheer each other up and also like make a great team is very important. So I have met like with many people who could have become really potential good like a teammate, but it just couldn't work because we were different people. Like we had different mentalities about life, about friendship, about even other aspects of our characters. So I think the third element that comes into play is the character and how two people can have that chemistry to work with each other as well. Kristen?
Yeah, and I think that was a great answer. And I think enthusiasm for what you're doing is also very, very important because at the conference, there were lots of like little breakout rooms where I was talking to a bunch of different women in 3D printing. And I was very enthusiastic about what I have been working on with concrete 3D printing. And someone was like, oh, have you met Maria? She is going to be a very important person to connect with. And I was like, oh, perfect. So it was great because she was enthusiastically sharing about what she was interested in. And I was also engaging in conversations and sharing. And that's how we ended up meeting.
Great. Yeah, it's, when we all go back to life in person, it'll be really, some of these lessons can be put into place because there's a wonderful quote by somebody who was in the Yale Industrial Engineering Department a long time ago. It said, if I had an hour to solve a problem, I'd spend 2/3 of the time trying to figure out the right question to ask. And what we've seen over and over again is when people go to these conferences and just have a really well-prepared question in a large session, they then are the ones who kind of connect and create that social capital in a network, right? Like what you ask kind of comes back to you in meaningful and interesting ways. And so like, for those of you who are looking to kind of seek and find partners, like putting yourself out there and asking the right question at one of these large conferences or just putting up your hand is one of those ways to kind of create and generate that social capital. Thanks to entrepreneurs for a really interesting discussion. Lovely. We do have our judges coming back here. So we are, I think, if someone can give me a thumbs up and ready. Peter Boyd, one of the team here at the Yale Center for Business Environment, already has his soccer jersey on to go coach his daughter's soccer game after this. So we're moving into the next stage. Before we do this, I was just talking about the kind of wealth of relationships that are here and where you can connect. And I want to pause and recognize one person in particular who's made a huge difference on the Yale ecosystem over the course of the past 5 years, and that's Ben Soltoff. Ben has been just a true gem of a human being who has done amazing things for entrepreneurs around here. I mean, just like super responsive, great advice, incredible questions, like cares deeply and like is always focused on the needs of the other person. And like, you don't make things like this happen without people like Ben. And Ben is going to move on. He's going to leave you. He's going to go do other things. And I would just say to anybody out there who's listening or who catches this recording, if you were lucky enough to have the opportunity to work with Ben or be supervised by Ben or do anything with Ben, when he comes to you with a well thought out idea, just say like, how can I help? Like, that's the only thing you need to do. Just be like, what can I do to help and remove obstacles for you? Because he's just that good of a human being and a wonderful asset. So if everybody could just give Ben a round of applause for like just 5 years of absolutely crushing it at Yale. I mean, it's a remarkable thing. Ben, you want to just say one thing? Anything would you like to say?
Stu's embarrassing me highly. Thank you so much, Stu. I really loved being a part of this competition now for 4 years running, being really active in it. And it's really the team members and especially the entrepreneurs who inspire me and keep me going and have kept me coming back to this competition. So this has been a great year in particular. Loved hearing all of these pitches, and the work you do and all of your peers and colleagues do continues to inspire me.
Great. Thank you, Ben. I cannot say enough positive things about you. You cannot say enough positive things as well about the entrepreneurs. This is an incredibly tight competition from what we're hearing. And I know the judges are probably going to want to make a few comments. I'm going to introduce first the audience prize winner. And then we will reveal the winner of the 2021 Sabin Sustainable Venture Prize. So can everyone out there for the audience prize winner give me a virtual drum roll? Get it out there, come on. There we go, there we go. The audience prize winner is Shoots. So congratulations, Shoots, for winning the audience prize of the 2021 Sabin Sustainable Venture Prize. Yep, thank you, Kevin. And then our winner of the 2021 Sabin Sustainable Venture Prize is, drum roll again, please, everyone. Packables. Congratulations, Packables, for your win in the 2021 Sabin Sustainable Venture Prize. And really just, you all knocked it out of the park. Incredible job by all the teams on these presentations. I don't know, from the judges who are here, anybody who are there, any comments or thoughts, if you'd like. Peter, maybe we'll start with you as the coordinator of that room in the Wrangler.
Yeah, just a few quick points on this. It's the first time in quite a few years that all finalists had a judge with a number 1 on it. So just like coming in, when I get my normal, in real life, you get normal little pieces of paper. It was like, oh dear, this is going to be a long one. Also, the first time we have to note that a beverage demo was done on a soil product, so we have to note that too. I think we're jealous of Stuart's process, getting the 10 down to the 4. There's a leisurely 2 hours there. You can really dig in. And we had 10 minutes and the clock ticking, and Eileen going, come on, come back into the room. So really close. It's probably the closest you sort of been in recent memory. So I think the idea, I think we thought, is there's a first place in 3 equal seconds. It was a really good one, and quite a few others. The judges would have been happy to go other ways as well. So, and great stuff from the judges. That's it for me.
Thanks, Peter, and thanks again for all your work supporting the teams this year as well. Any other final thoughts, reflections, or words of inspiration from the judges before we say goodbye?
I would just like to say, I hope you all do these companies. They're all worth doing, and you all have, it looks like you have the capability to do it. So go for it.
Great. Thank you, Liddy. Well, teams, with that, I'm going to conclude the 2021 Sabin Sustainable Venture Prize. Thank you to the Sabin Foundation for continuing to support this, for being a catalyst here at Yale for these types of prizes. Thank you to the community of people who supports the entrepreneurs. And most importantly, thank you to the entrepreneurs and innovators who put yourselves out there, continue to work, and are really just a bunch of compassionate, great listening builders who it's really a pleasure to support as an institution inside the university. So we will be here for you. We wish you the best of luck and have a lovely day.